superliner United States as our camera picks her up out of New York on her historic maiden crossing of the Atlantic. You're welcome aboard while we make these photographs which point up the luxury and comfort of the $73 million, 53,000-ton floating city. The churning wake as she moves cleanly through the water, our ship racing smoothly at full speed. Aboard the First Lady of the Seas is the daughter of the President. The ship's skipper, Commodore Manning, invites Miss Margaret Truman up to the bridge. Then, past 6 in the morning, they share an historic moment. The United States breaks the transatlantic record. Jubilant passengers stayed awake all night to witness the finish at Bishop Rock on the southwest coast of England. Next, the first docking at Le Havre, France. The unparalleled time of the crossing was 3 days, 10 hours, 40 minutes, beating the Queen Mary's time by 10 hours and 2 minutes. A sailor's welcome for the Blue Ribbon winner, a ship that averaged 36 knots on the 2,942-mile crossing, or about 41 land miles an hour. Now on to Southampton, England for the next stop. And here begins a greeting true to the tradition of a great seafaring nation. Sure, the United States beat the best time of a British liner, but there's matchless sporting blood in a nation that loves ships. Generous tribute is paid to the American craft and craftsmanship. Americans aboard the ship are astonished, overwhelmed by the reception, its warmth and sincerity. Britain's unforgettable salute to the liner United States.
Bridge wings were crucial for docking and departure because they provided a fine, unobstructed view down the length of the ship's hull. United States bridge wings also have a polaris each, the kind of simplified compass used for maintaining bearing. On the starboard side of the bridge deckhouse was the log room, which held the critical record-keeping information for the ship's crossings. But as with many spaces on United States, the inclusion of a dedicated room for the ship's logs was rather unusual. The bridge wings were crucial for docking and departure because they provided a fine, unobstructed view down the length of the ship's hull. United States bridge wings also have a polaris each, the kind of simplified compass used for maintaining bearing. The flagboard was used to house the ship's various flags to be run up the halyards attached to the antenna mast, anything from the house flag showing the colours of the United States lines to signal flags conveying United States intentions. These big mushroom vents fed air down to the fan rooms below, and drew fresh air into the ship to be run through the miles of trunking for cabins, public rooms, and machinery spaces. The DF loop was a crucial bit of navigation kit. It helped lock onto shore-based radio signals in any direction, which could help triangulate a detailed position on the map. It was especially useful alongside radar off the notoriously foggy US East Coast on approach to New York City. United States was fitted with searchlights on either side of the bridge, really only for use in special circumstances, like if she was enveloped in fog, but they could also be used to flash Morse signals to distant ships. The ship's plans show a dedicated cabin for the pilot, a knowledgeable local expert who came aboard to assist in docking and departures. Maintaining such a tight schedule meant that sometimes there was not enough time to let the pilot off, so he was assigned his own cabin just in case he'd have to be along for the ride. Two small emergency boats sat on quick-acting davits either side of the forward deckhouse. These could get a swift boat over the side at high speed in the case of any kind of man-overboard situation. These portholes provided light to all of the senior officers' cabins, like the first, second and third officers. Further aft, inside, was a comfortable lounge for the senior crewmen to enjoy while they were off duty. This door led into the forward first-class berthing on the sun deck, which featured some very fine cabins. This set of stairs led up to the first-class aft entrance, where the stairwell led down to the public rooms on the promenade deck below. It also gave access to the first-class cabins on the starboard side of this deckhouse, numbered S11 to S111, all the way back towards the stern. The ballroom was a central hub for passengers by day and by night. It was directly behind this bulkhead. It led directly off from the main foyer, and the ballroom featured plush red chairs and sofas, carved glass panels on the walls, showing undersea themes like coral, and a bandstand for nightly performances by the likes of the Myers Davis Orchestra. These doors led into the main foyer for first class. Turning left would take you to the first class ballroom, while the right-hand turn would take you to the elegant observation lounge instead. Behind this bulkhead was another fan room for the ship's ventilation machinery, but beyond that was the observation lounge, a sumptuous room which spanned the width of the ship and was decorated with a pair of 9 by 12 foot murals by artist Raymond Wendell. Each of the 14 small round tables in the room featured a unique arrangement of applied stars in the pattern of a real constellation. The first-class smoking room was a real draw for passengers. A brochure described it like this: the colour scheme of rich autumn hues makes the smoking room one of the most attractive of the 12 public rooms reserved for first-class passengers. Two-toned leather chairs and sofas, covered in hand-woven fabric, invite you to relax. The bowed centre wall is covered with a Mercator projection of the world's continents, showing variations of time at different longitudes. SS United States Main Theatre, behind this bulkhead, served a few different purposes, from staging plays and talent shows to screening films and even hosting Sunday Mass. cargo hatch here was used for handling mail. The SS United States held a vaunted US mail contract and carried tons of the stuff on every voyage. The deck around you here is a sports deck for cabin class passengers, but it's also the raised roof over the cabin class lounge below, a clever double use of the space. The docking bridge complex featured this aft steering system, which had all the necessary equipment to handle the ship, either as a backup or as a simple alternative for manoeuvring in unusual situations. Most of the time, the telegraphs at the wheel back here were sat wrapped under canvas to protect them from the elements. The ship's fantail, the very stern, mounted a jackstaff, which proudly flew the US merchant ensign flag. Meanwhile, the deck around it could be used by cabin class passengers for games or relaxing in the fresh air. The cabin class lounge was a plush space that was beautifully decorated with a mural called The Mississippi, Father of Waters by Hildreth Mier, showing the river sprouting like a tree through the middle of mainland USA, while the walls around it were clad in pink beige aluminium leaf. These big windows looked into the palatial first-class ballroom and lounge mezzanine, which was the upper story balcony of the entire complex. If you want to take a look inside, go try that door over there. Many of the fine staterooms behind these windows had their own ensuite bathrooms, a rarity in those days when many passenger ships featured communal facilities out in the hallways. These big windows looked into the palatial first-class ballroom and lounge mezzanine, which was the upper story balcony of the entire complex. If you want to take a look inside, go try that door over there. Morro Castle used some fancy new lifeboat lowering devices called gravity davits, which were a huge step up over what had come before. In fact, this kind of davit is still largely used today. If golf wasn't your thing, you could try your hand at table tennis. In fact, in the 1930s, ping pong was all the rage, and Morro Castle boasted tables where passengers could face off. This section of B-deck was a nice big space for passengers to relax in, but the Cuban sun could be unrelenting. The deck was cluttered with big poles called stanchions so that canvas awnings could be stretched out for shade if things got just too hot. These putting greens are like the ones on the deck above, a fun little feature for passengers who want to practice their mini golf. This skylight looked into the tourist class lounge. Much more, well, modest than first class, of course, but still very lovely. Havana in summer can get very, very hot. But Morro Castle didn't have an outdoor pool. Instead, passengers could cool off with these multi-headed showers. How clever. The docking bridge was usually off limits to passengers. It was really a working space where crew could coordinate arrival and departure because ships had got so long they needed somebody stationed at the stern to make sure nothing got hit. This was the orchestra stage for the deck ballroom. On the floor in front of you, passengers would have swayed to jazz and foxtrotted well into the night. The covered promenade served as a relaxing spot during the day, but at night time it could be easily transformed into a roaring party space. I mean, it was the Jazz Age after all. Behind these windows was the first class smoking room, a spectacular space with a towering, arched glass ceiling which glowed with natural light during the day. These covered stairs also featured fans, which ventilated the spaces below. These stairs led down to more crew-only areas, including the heads, aka, well, the toilets. These big polished bronze pedestals were used to control the steam equipment like winches and capstans. Turning them while under power would engage or disengage a brake. It's pretty simple, really. This is the prow, the very front of the ship. And this flagpole, or jackstaff, was used to fly the jack, a small decorative flag, but only in port.